What is up, everyone? Scott Brandt coming to you on this wonderful Sunday evening in Colorado Springs. Hopefully, you guys had a great Sunday. Hopefully, it was a great day of rest, maybe growth, maybe go exploring, going and seeing something new, going and challenging yourself, going trying to do something. I don't know what it is, whatever it is for you and whatnot. But man, today for me was a great day. Went through another class for my coaching intensive and just love the opportunity just to learn, expand the mind, and just see things in a different light sometimes. Take a look and see what I may be missing out on. And that's a beautiful thing that you have the chance to really do some different things, create impact in your life, impact in the other lives of others and whatnot. But you got to be willing to do the work. I think the screen, I don't know, maybe tonight. The video may be a little grainy on. I'm looking at it, so let me see. Maybe if I adjust light here, we'll find out. Maybe there we go. Whatever. It's working with what we have. So, but I actually came. So I've got an individual that I follow, and I received a text message, and so it's through like a lot of other individuals. You have the text services, they'll send out inspirational different things. They'll have you think of different things. And so what was sent out was talking about breakups have messy endings. And the only thing you can do about it is explore your own self. This is where you will find closure, but closure is not a situation where one door needs to close in order for another to open. Closure is a process. It's a journey. And so I look at that and I talk about my divorce. It's one of those things that it took place and it really opened up my eyes and forced me to grow, forced me to change and look at things differently. And so it's one of those tough situations you're going to come across and you'll be like, I'm learning something from this. This really sucks. What am I supposed to learn from the given situation? But it's one of those things. And so through the process, it's got me into reading different things that I wouldn't normally consider. So I got a new book. It's very unique because it's just these random odd facts that sometimes you'll come across and you'll be like, what? So in the book, they were talking about evolutionary processes with whatnot, and they had talked about a platypus. Platypus with the babies as it's feeding the babies. The platypus doesn't have nipples, so you're like, where is this going? Interesting facts of the day. So instead of using nipples to feed their babies like humans do or any other mammals do a lot of times, platypuses actually will secrete milk to feed the baby from their abdominal area, which is, I'm like, man, that is unique. So it's one of those things, one of those interesting facts. You just never know. This may be a trivia question that pops up and you'll be like, man, I remember Scott talking about that. Thanks, Scott, for letting me know. So it's just one of those very interesting random topics and whatnot. But coming across something about the idea of mistakes and learning and leaning into the process of mastery. And one of the things that we've really got to look at is the idea of mistakes. A lot of people are scared to make mistakes. We have a society that people are so prone on the fear of making a mistake that they overwhelm themselves and they don't do anything because mistakes are viewed as a bad thing. And one of the things that in my class today that was talked about, and Gary Goggins actually had posted something in regards to the idea of mistakes and whatnot. And we have to look at mistakes occur when you're stretching yourself. And so you've really got to do the work to stretch yourself. You got to do something different every day to really stretch yourself, because the only way you're going to grow is by having mistakes occur and whatnot. And so mistakes are part of the mastery process. So if you're going to master a given talent, if you're going to master a given situation, you've got to make mistakes. But we have too many people that are hard pressed on not making mistakes. And so I think one of the things that really doesn't serve us well is the school system. Because if we really think about it, mistakes are really harped on. And so it can be tough, and it can be a tough thing for kids that they don't want to make a mistake because maybe they're braided Maybe they are torn down and made to feel inadequate. And so mistakes are a part of the learning process. And we have to understand that the only way you grow is through mistakes. And so we've got to look at the idea and the concept of mistakes in a different light. And so it kind of goes hand in hand in regards with The Buddha and the Badass, a book that I'm probably almost halfway done with it. Very powerful book. And so for any individual that's watching this, if you're watching this live or you're watching this on the replay, tomorrow morning at 11 o'clock at Old Chicago's down near, it's actually on Woodman near I-25. There's a networking group. It's an open networking group. Highly suggest come checking it out. I'll actually be giving the business education presentation. So I'll be using some information from what I've learned from The Buddha and the Badass, kind of the different tools that I've taken and really have looked at to make some changes. It's a powerful thing. And so it's one of those things that you've got to be a reader. Reader is what's going to allow you to expand, shape your mind. And that's the thing too, when you start reading, and if you go read a book again, a lot of times you're going to be like, I didn't see that before, or that wasn't in there before. And what's happened is your mind has expanded. And so your mind, when it goes through the second, third time, fourth time, however many times you read a book, it's going to see something different than what it saw before. Because at that time when you were reading it originally, your mind wasn't expanded. And so your mind's like a plastic bag. Once you expand it, it's not going to go back to the size, the shape, and whatnot that it was before. It's been expanded. And so reading is one of those powerful things that is going to help you to expand and shape yourself, push yourself in a different level and become a different individual. But the thing is, you'll hear this myth that knowledge is power. That's false. Knowledge with action is what creates power. And so that's the thing. When you're reading, you got to put forth action. So maybe you're reading a book and it says, hey, here's an exercise that you should do. You need to do it because that's part of the learning process. That's taking the knowledge, putting it with action to create impact. And so that's one thing that a lot of people will read a book but won't do the exercises for whatever reason. I used to be that way, but now it's like, hey, here's an exercise. Let's fine tune it and put it together with what's being read. It's a powerful thing. But some different things that they were discussing in The Buddha and the Badass. One is that when it comes to personal growth, and this is a realm that everybody needs to get into. People need to do the personal growth. People need to do the personal development. But guess why a lot of people don't do it? In my opinion, my outlook on this is because it scares people. Because you are stretching yourself, you're pushing yourself out of your comfort zone, and people don't like that. People are very hesitant to accept change. People are hard pressed not to let change take place for whatever reason. And so that's the thing, that's your lens that you're seeing life in. And so I love each person where they're at. Understand that each of us have a different lens of how we look at life, how we perceive life, how we perceive the world and whatnot. And so it's just loving each person where they're at. But if we can share and show and give value, it's going to help individuals out. But ultimately, the individual has to want to do the work. And so that's just something that's very powerful, something to consider and whatnot. But when it comes to personal growth, it's always under your control. It's your job to put yourself in situations that stretch you. And so think about that. How many times have you overlooked a situation or decided to push it to the side because you didn't want to stretch yourself? You were scared. Your mind got in the way and started saying, well, this could go wrong. Or you start asking yourself, what can go wrong? What is not going to go right? I'm not the smartest person. I don't know anybody that's succeeded. I don't have anybody in my life that's ever succeeded in doing X, Y, Z, whatever it is. You've got to ask different questions. So if you have an opportunity, you've got to say, what can potentially happen in my life if I take this opportunity? What growth is going to come out of it? What success, whatever your success is going to come out of this. But that's also where you got to look at your foundational values. And so you've got to look and say, okay, here's my foundational values. Is this opportunity that's being presented? Is this relationship that's being presented? Does that align with my foundational values? Because if it doesn't, you don't want to go after those opportunities because it's not going to align with you. You're going to stress yourself out. You're going to burn yourself out, and it's not going to be good for you. It's not going to serve you, and it's not going to do anything for you to grow. So those are some things that you've got to understand. But this is one thing that with leaders, and we've got to look at it in a different light. But in here, Lachine was talking, he'll argue that the number one job of a leader is to always evolve and to grow other leaders. And so you're responsible to grow other individuals. And that's a tough thing because that's a responsibility that you're trying to lead somebody, but you can't take it and be hard pressed and attached to it emotionally either. Because the saying goes is you can take horse water, but you can't make them drink. So the same thing is you can share and give guidance and provide mentorship, but that person that you're doing that with has to put forth action. They've got to do the work. But if you're a leader, you're responsible to grow yourself and help grow the other individuals, but it's a two-way street when helping other individuals out. And so he was saying that Google revealed that the number one most important behavior of the highest scoring managers was that they were effective coaches. This meant that they listened, guided, and helped their people grow. And so I think that's one of those things when it talks about listening. When you're listening to an individual, and this comes into holding space for individuals, and it's a very powerful thing. You may have to sit with somebody in the shit, and that can be scary because you're having to sit there, and a lot of us do not like silence. But are you listening for the intent to listen to somebody else? Or are you listening to somebody else to formulate an answer, to give your answer to somebody else? And guess what? That is your answer. That's your life experience that somebody else may not benefit from that. And so that's one thing a lot of times we'll try to give advice to somebody else. And if somebody takes it and it doesn't work out, that person may take the out and end up blaming you for things not happening and not working out right because they had taken your advice, that worked for you, that may not work for them. And so people will be like, okay, let me go try it. And then they'll get mad because it didn't work out. And then they're going to come back and blame you because it was your advice. And so that's the thing that we have to understand is when you're listening to people are the experts in their life. People already know the answer a lot of times. It's just a matter of having somebody that's going to sit there and listen to them, and give them that space and allow them to do what they need to. But sometimes that's the power of a coach. And so that's where I've heard a lot of successful people have talked about having coaches in different aspects of their life because the coach is there to give an outside perspective for you as an individual and help you out and ultimately just give you gentle accountability and hold you accountable for what you said you were going to do. So it's just some things to consider. But this also comes in, like I said, it's working on your lenses, working on how you see the world. And this could be part of the beliefs that you have. You've got to look at those beliefs that you have inside your head and see if they're helping you or if they're not serving you anymore. You've got to tear them down. And so that's the thing, that everybody has their different beliefs. And so if we can take the time and step and look from the other person's perspective, see where they're coming from, you may consider something that you didn't truly consider at the time because you're taking the time to look at it from the other person's perspective. But that's tough for people because everybody wants to come off as being right, knowing everything. And for me, I know not a lot. I can share my life experience and whatnot, but other than that, it's just helping people out, giving value to people. And the biggest thing that myself and Patrick Murakami with what we're doing is just providing value to people, helping people out, meeting them where they're at, and just giving them the space that they need. So other than that, I'll catch you guys later. Thank you for your time. Any thoughts, any takeaways with this live, this video, let's hear them. Leave what your thoughts are. Leave your takeaways. If you had any aha moments, leave that in the comments. Would love to see what you've taken away, what may have stuck out, or maybe there's a perspective that you have that maybe you've never shared with anybody, or you don't want to share with anybody because you're scared of being judged. Step up, overcome that fear, and leave it. I'd love to hear maybe your perspective on this take and whatnot, and kind of see what you're thinking and what you may be mulling over, your ideas and whatnot. Would love to hear that. Just to see if there's something that I'm not considering, see if there's another perspective that I can step into, look at, and say, okay, yeah, maybe there's something that I'm missing. But would love to hear your feedback. Anything, leave a comment. I love you guys. I'll catch you guys later. All right, peace.